All right, so good morning. It's DeDe in the morning.
Come on now.
All right, I'm trying to get it together, but I'm trying to get my timer on. All right, so listen, you guys. There is J. Cruz.
Yeah.
Comedian J.J. Williamson.
Uh-huh.
I'm so happy to have this woman in here. She's a fan of ours. I mean, we're a fan of hers and everything else. She's here to talk to us today. Is a big day because you know what? Early voting has started.
Yes.
Please welcome the Congresswoman herself, Miss Jasmine Crockett.
Hey.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
All right, so listen, I know this is like different for you to be in our set because I've been seeing you all over. Like, you didn't hit the big time.
Prime time.
How many people have called you to be on their shows, national shows you've been on so far?
I have no idea.
It's been a lot,
We get lots of calls. We still got some stuff that is going to be coming out. So,
Really?
yeah, I've done some other recordings that'll be coming out.
Oh,
can I ask real quick?
You've been on the run so much. Do you even know where you live anymore?
I do know where I live. I represent Texas 30 where I live, okay? All right?
You on the ballot?
That's right. I'm on the ballot.
All right.
But no, I very rarely see my bed.
Yeah.
Really? So does this shock you or surprise you now that you are a star in the political realm in this whole world right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not what most people think of when they think of any party, anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely within the Democratic Party. Like, I'm not the girl that, like, the establishment would go out and be like, oh, this is our next, you know what I mean? So it's just a matter of the people rising up and being like, yo, like, that's the one we mess with, right? And so it is amazing to see how like social media in general has been able to kind of transform so many things in our lives, including politics, whether it's for the better or for the worse. At the end of the day, I don't think in a traditional world I ever would have been tapped. But I think in this social media world, people are like, oh, well, wait a minute. People are responding to her. So we're going to have to go ahead and allow her to be who she is.
Because you represent us more and
For
better
sure.
than anybody we've seen probably in years. And I think that's what it is because you're not one of those people that somebody tapped and said that I think that's really what it is because you're so real. You were going to say
And you
something?
speak really well and you're so intelligent, but you still bring it with like, I'm from the streets kind of way. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not even being funny, like,
Yeah.
but it's very intelligent. Nobody can be
Yeah.
like, I didn't understand what she's saying. If
Yeah.
anything, oh my God, I don't know. What's that word?
She
you
breaks it
just
down.
said?
She
Right.
breaks it down for us in a way we go, I get it.
Exactly. And I'll also say, do you feel like because of all this attention and notoriety, because recently you had said eventually you're getting out of this.
Oh, yeah.
Have you changed your mind?
No.
No,
You-
somebody gonna
Absolutely not.
make you stay. They gonna make you
Come
stay.
on. Come on.
No. Yeah, I mean, listen, life was a lot simpler, a lot more profitable, a lot more everything, a lot safer. When I wasn't in politics, right? So like now it's like, all right, I get people clowning me. Oh, my tax dollars, this and that. I'm like, do you understand that I was taking your tax dollars on these cases and making more money? In addition to not having to literally deal with like death threats.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
for
like, I
sure.
represented killers
Wow.
and didn't have to worry about that. I've actually represented white supremacists
Wow.
and didn't have to deal with that. So like it's just kind of, you know, and it's just a straight up ignorance, right? So obviously you see me combating it all the time in committee, but like their followers are even more ignorant. Like if the elected ones talk like this and
Yeah.
act like this, like their followers are even more ignorant.
Well, we already see that with Donald Trump and the
And
MAGA.
the Marjorie
Yeah.
Green girl, she's cuckoo
Yes.
for
Oh
cocoa
my God.
Puffs.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
well, she's a big supporter of his. I mean,
Correct.
so I mean, I'm just saying when you're saying when you look at them, then if they're acting like that, what are their followers?
Their followers
He's a
are
prime
worse.
example to me
Yeah.
nationally that we can look at and go, we see some of his followers.
Yeah, no,
and we see what
no.
they're capable of.
Absolutely. And
January
then,
6th.
I mean, but you talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. What people have not really taken in is if this fool wins.
Yeah.
She may end up as like a secretary.
Oh my God, yeah.
Or something, and it's like,
The
bro,
lady who said
like,
we controlled the weather and brought
Yes,
the tornadoes. The lady who
yes,
just said that.
yes.
No, I told you that they were saying that. Remember, I told you guys that's what some of the things they were saying. So again, we're talking to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Of course, let's talk about early voting. It's going on right now.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you voted? How old were you the first time you voted?
I don't remember the first
You
time
don't?
I voted. I don't.
Do you remember? You don't remember?
I voted by mail.
Really?
Yeah,
Girl.
I was in college.
Oh wow. Okay.
And my mama made sure that I got it. I was in Tennessee, and I'm from Missouri, so it was my mama making me. That's the first.
Speaking of your mom, when you say that, a lot of people say that as African Americans, we follow what our parents did, and that is, the Democratic Party and this and that. What are your thoughts for people who say that, we don't know or the Democratic Party ain't looking out for us?
Yeah, here's the deal. Anybody that has any level of discontentment, I get it. because it's the whole reason I'm in politics right now. I'm not in politics because I ever thought that I would end up on Kimmel or Colbert or any of the wild things that
or
I've
DeDe
done,
in the morning.
or
Yeah,
DeDe in the
right.
morning.
Let's go.
Y'all got it.
All the shows. It wasn't that. It was more so like I was frustrated and I felt like the system is broken. I can keep complaining about it or I can do my part to try to fix it. Yeah. And so for people feeling like our system is broken, you have every right to feel that way because it is. But the difference is we are the mechanics. We are the ones that need to get under the hood and fix it because we know that it doesn't work for us.
Right.
But you can't expect somebody who's never walked a day in your shoes to say, well, let me fix this for you. So you can't just check out. You've got to check in. You've got to understand that, listen, this is a generational fight that we have to constantly kind of bang our heads on. I mean, when you think about Roe v. Wade didn't get erased in like a year or two. It took them 50 years. Like they stayed the course. And so I just need people to, number one, understand like why government is so broken and understand the obstacles that we face. And number two, instead of checking out, decide to check in. And number three, make sure that you're paying attention to who's running for office and not just at the top of the ticket. Because I wouldn't be here but for people deciding 90 people made the difference that I should be the state representative. So I won my state rep seat, and then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, who is this girl? And then by the time it came for me to run for Congress, it was like, well, who else would it be? Like, it's got to be Jasmine, right? So, like, you got to make sure that you're checking for people all the way down the ballot because there would not be a Jasmine Crockett that everybody now knows, but for those people in House District 100 that said, you know what, we going to show up in the midst of COVID-19 and we are going to vote to put this one in office. I was outspent 5-1.
All right, hold on a second. Yeah. Did you just say 90 votes was the difference?
Yeah.
Wait. Explain that to everybody listening what you mean by this.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who believe that voting doesn't matter.
Oh, no.
And you just said something that matters.
No. Yeah. I am definitely the poster child for every vote matters. So listen, I had this closest state house race in the entire state of Texas. Now, the state of Texas has 150 house seats. They are up every 2 years. And when I ran to become a freshman, the only black freshman in that legislative term, I only won by 90 votes.
What?
And so,
y'all hear that?
And so literally putting me in position, I tell people all the time, I was a thank you Lottie into the state house, but putting me into position and allowing me an opportunity just to govern and show people what governance would look like under me, it propelled me to be the front runner when my predecessor tapped me to run for Congress. So listen, every vote counts and make sure that you research not just, I mean, the top of the ballot, you're going to get all the commercials and all the things because they get all the money.
Right.
It's the bottom of the ballot. That is where we start to build our bench. And so here it is. I went from barely making it into the state house to only doing one term, and in a historic fashion, being the only black woman to go from one term in the state house to then being a freshman in the U.S. House and walking into the U.S. House, making history as only the second of two black women to swear in as into House Democratic leadership behind Shirley Chisholm.
Come on now.
And then after that, becoming, potentially the youngest national co-chair of a presidential campaign.
Yes, you are, for Kamala
And
Harris.
so,
And having the quote of
Girl,
a
you gave me
lifetime as well.
goosebumps. That's so
Okay.
great. That's great. Y'all see this? We are in the presence of greatness. Y'all realize
I
that?
love it.
I don't know about all that, but I want people to be encouraged. I
Right.
want them to understand that literally there is another Jasmine Crockett waiting in the wings, but it's up to y'all to do your research and decide
And put her in
that person
position.
exactly to put them in position.
But you just said something, Jasmine, that a lot of people have said, and that is this, and people, we say it all the time. Really, the change matters locally. You really
Yes.
feel the change
Yes.
in your life
Yes.
and in your community
Yes.
when it's locally, when you're voting
Yes.
locally. I just want to say that.
So from your expertise, so we know this is an election year, from January till now, do you feel like we have made enough progress as a party to overtake the White House and the House?
I don't know about progress. I actually, I'm just gonna be 1,000%. There hasn't been progress that's been made since I've been in Congress, if I'm being honest. But it has nothing to do with my party per se. It's just the way that the system is set up right now. We have the Democrats control the White House. Cool. So that means if you send it to President Biden's desk and it's a good piece of legislation, then he's going to sign it into law. But we have a House that's run by the Republicans. or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they running anything, but this has been the most unproductive Congress in the history of Congresses, but it's because of the House. They don't agree with one another. So they only have a 4-person majority. And so that means if they want to move something out of the House, they have to work together. Well, MAGA and other Republicans don't work together.
Yeah.
So the only time anything moves is when they come begging Hakeem Jeffries to help them out to move something, which really is how we are supposed to govern. We're supposed to work together anyway.
Right.
And so, yeah, once we move stuff, once the Democrats usually have to carry it for them, then we move it and it gets to the Senate, which the Democrats control the Senate, but they still have the filibuster.
Are there any Republicans that you could ever have like common ground with?
I do. I mean, in real life, I mean, he probably loses some street cred, but our senior Senator Cornyn, works with me on a lot of things.
Okay.
Senator Cornyn's attitude when I came in, number one, we could not swear in because they could not figure out who they wanted to be the speaker.
Wow.
So I wasn't officially sworn in, so I couldn't do anything. So his office called us and said, hey, if you have constituents that need help, we're here to help them. So that was number one. Once we got sworn in, he said, hey, come to my office. I want to sit down, want to talk to you. I went to his office. He said, listen, if it's for the good of Texas, I don't want you to have to go look for a Democrat.
Oh, wow.
I want to be able to carry the bill.
Nice.
So obviously we can't do nothing on repro.
Right.
Clearly.
Right.
Like I know where we don't agree, but on things such as even like food security issues, fentanyl issues, some of my bills, he's actually carrying those bills for me. And that's what it's supposed to be like. Now that other one, we don't have a relationship. At all.
Okay.
I mean, he ain't about, I'm not going to cuss.
Okay.
But he ain't about nothing. Okay. He ain't about nothing.
All right.
He ain't about nothing.
What word you want to say?
JJ say it for you.
So we're talking to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, of course. Again, early voting is going on now.
Yes.
I'm going to throw some names and some things at you, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Oh, Lord.
First thing that comes to mind. You have to go. Here we go. JD Vance.
Wait a minute. I can't cuss. Couch.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let me see. Ron DeSantis.
Idiot.
Governor Abbott.
Roll him away.
Okay. All right.
Without the brakes.
Okay. The Texas grid.
Failure.
Okay. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't you
Idiot.
say bad, Bill.
I was
Cool.
That's good. We'll go with B6.
Okay. Donald Trump.
Danger.
Mm.
Dang. You think he's dangerous?
I do.
Yeah. You guys, what do you think is the most dangerous thing this man has said so far? You think? Project 2025?
Well,
He says he has nothing to do with it?
he runs away from that. But y'all can check my video if you got YouTube.
Okay.
I made it clear in committee.
Okay.
Okay.
His name is mentioned over 300 times in Project 2025. So
Right. Okay.
whatever.
Uh-huh. All right, here's another one then.
But if I had to say,
mhm.
if I had to say specifically for your listeners, if there's one thing that I would say is most dangerous, and I'm being specific to the people that most likely listen to you, it is the fact that he wants to allow for there to be immunity for law enforcement officers on the criminal side to go out and kill us.
It's crazy.
Which we barely have prosecutors now that will even prosecute law enforcement when they kill us in the streets. And so that is very dangerous. You know, we talk about how we want to get rid of qualified immunity on the civil side of things, which allows for us to actually be able to access the civil remedies. But he's like, I don't even want them to get locked up. That's where he is.
I did see him today. I mean, the other day or over the weekend say something about education. Anybody see this story, I guess, where he's now saying if they teach slavery or something, he's not going to give.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Full funding.
Oh, yeah.
Full funding?
Yeah. He said that if states decide that they want to teach actual history, including slavery, that they will not receive federal funding.
I thought that was kind of interesting too. Okay. Here's the other thing I need to ask you about. You know, as African Americans in our community, we're often talking about wealth, right? Everybody wants financial wealth, spiritual wealth. And somebody said, you know, we need to be pushing for, and that would have to be political wealth. What does that look like to the African American community? When we hear political wealth, because we do need it, how do we establish that, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, you know, most wealth comes about because you make an investment, period, right? So if we're talking about buying a home, you got to make an investment and then it will pay you back. It's the same thing in politics. I mean, when we look at it, look at Elon Musk, who decided that he's going to drop basically $100 million behind a candidate. Like, he done bought Donald Trump, okay? Like, ultimately.
Shouts out to the new owners of the Mavericks, too, but go ahead. The Dallas Mavericks owner, she put $100 million into Donald Trump's campaign. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
She's a new owner.
Let's go. So we need to be talking about these collective tax and things like that in our African American.
But it does look like making the investments. And so, you know, with somebody like me, it doesn't really matter who gives me money. I'm going to do what I feel like is right. And ultimately, if the people decide that I shouldn't be in position, then they will kick me out. But my moral compass dictates to me that, number one, as only the 55th Black woman to ever swear into the U.S. House, that I owe it to my ancestors to make sure that I honor their legacy, I honor their sacrifice, and that means that I have to do right by my people. Not everybody necessarily has that same compass, okay? And so it definitely takes making sure that you're making the financial investment, but also making sure that you're holding people accountable. And you're saying, listen, now when we talked and I gave you that check, you told me that you were going to push for these things that would benefit our community, and I don't see you making the push. So we do have to look at political wealth, and we also have to make sure that you do allow for those non-traditional voices such as mine to rise up, because we are not a monolith as a Black people, and so we need all different levels of folk that are representing for the various generations of who we are.
Girl, if you're not gonna do politics, what the hell else are you gonna do? Jasmine, you're kidding with me that you're gonna drop out, right? You're like, there's no way. Like, who's in your family? Who are your closest people? I need to be your manager. This is ridiculous.
I love it. Before we let you go, and they're getting mad at me because I'm taking up a lot of time. Last thing, there's a lot of people that are listening, a lot of people watching. There are some people who do not want to vote. Let everybody know one reason why they have to get out to vote. What is that one thing that's on the ballot besides your name? But what's on the ballot that they need to really get out there because it's going to affect them?
Listen, my soror state representative, Tony, she always says that you may not do politics, but politics will do you. And that's what I want people to understand, is that every single part of your life is impacted by politics, whether we're talking about the cost of food, whether or not food is even on your shelves, or whether we're talking about your wages. You know, we know that we need to raise the minimum wage, whether we're talking about the cost of your life-saving drugs, and whether or not these pharmaceutical companies are allowed to literally put your life on the line, or whether we're talking about the Black maternal mortality rate, which has already been off the chain. But now, as we see the overturning of Roe, and that women are dying, or the fact that in the state of Texas we had 26,000 women that were impregnated as a result of rape just in about a year and a half of the overturning of Roe. We are talking about education and whether or not you are allowed to learn Black history, or whether or not your schools are properly funded. It impacts everything, because if we look at Project 2025, they don't even want you to have Head Start. So they want to get rid of Head Start as well as get rid of Social Security. So even if you haven't reached Social Security age, somebody that you love has, and ultimately this means that this is going to come back on your pockets, because you're going to need to help out your mother or your brother or your uncle or your grandma or whatever. So just know that every part of your life is impacted by politics. So you may as well decide and have a say-so in who is making the decisions about how much you're having to pay in taxes or not.
What y'all gonna do? That's as simple as that. What y'all gonna do, world? Y'all gonna come on?
He said, what y'all gonna do? Well, listen, she's on the ballot. I love it.
On the ballot.
Girl, you ain't going nowhere.
My vote and my heart.
I know it. We're not letting you go. We're not letting you go. If we got to write you in when you decide you're giving up, we're going to write your name in.
You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you're not going nowhere. I'm sorry. And by the way, shouts out again, because, listen, Kamala Harris, what you're doing with, girl, that's pretty amazing, though. That you co-chair of that, right? Of her campaign, everything.
That means I'm sleepy.
You sleepy? Sleepy. I love it.
Give you the Sealy fingers. You better stay.
He said the
everything you do. Yeah.
Y'all got to clap it up for this woman. Get out and vote. Yes. Early voting is going on now through November 1st. Yeah. Remember, you can vote on November 5th. And I keep telling y'all, they said this. You know what? You need to do it early, because what if you wake up and your car don't work that day? Let's say you're sick. Maybe somebody gets sick in your family, and all of a sudden you get on November 5th, you can't go out and vote. Yeah. Now is the time to do it. Also, it doesn't even matter, right? You can go wherever within your area,
within your county. And even if you happen to be in a county that is not yours, so long as you're in the state of Texas, they have to give you a ballot for you to vote for everything that would be like a statewide type of election. So anything where you're voting, you can't vote like, you know, for your congressional.
Right,
you can't vote for your local stuff. But even if you're, say, stuck in Harris County and you're a Dallas County resident, then make sure you demand that they give you a ballot. The other thing that I'll say about early voting is with AG Paxton going and trying to kick people off the rolls, it's so important that you go and vote early so that if there is an issue where he's tried to delete you from the rolls and you shouldn't have been deleted from the rolls, then they can work to try to get all of that fixed before the last minute, which is election day.
I love it. I love this woman. I love this woman right here. Y'all got to love her too. Make sure you get out and vote. Everybody give it up for the Congresswoman herself, Miss Jasmine Crockett. It's DeDe in the morning.
Hey.